Carlos Alcaraz vs Alexander Zverev Preview and Prediction, 2026 Australian Open Semifinal. Carlos Alcaraz vs Alexander Zverev Prediction. Carlos Alcaraz has stoked the fires ahead of his blockbuster semifinal with Alexander Zverev by claiming he will be looking forward to taking revenge at the Australian Open. The Spaniard lost in 4 sets to the German when they locked horns in the quarterfinals at Melbourne Park back in 2024, and the 22-year-old clearly hasn't forgotten the chastening experience heading into what will be their 13th meeting overall. Alcaraz has been irresistible since the start of this year's tournament. The 6-time Grand Slam champion is still to drop a set after reaching the semifinals down under for the first time courtesy of a rampant 7-5-6 to 2-6-1 win over home hope Alex de Minaur. Zverev has also impressed on his latest run in the first major of the season, hitting 24 aces and 56 winners overall in a 6-3, 6-7, 6-1, 7-6 triumph over a lively Linetian. As a result, the German is into his 3rd semifinal at the Australian Open on the spin, and will make a landmark 10th appearance in the last 4 at a Grand Slam. If form and pedigree aren't enough to show this is going to be a real battle, then the head-to-head certainly does. The matchup is tied at 6-6 with Alcaraz winning 3 of the last 4 since that loss at Rod Laver Arena 2 years ago. Zverev leads 5-3 on hard courts, although Alcaraz is 3-2 up in outdoor matches on the surface, with honors even at 2 apiece in Grand Slam encounters. The next consideration is motivation, and it's evident that is extremely high for both players too. Zverev very much feels he has unfinished business, having had to settle for the runner-up spot in Melbourne 12 months ago and coming up short in all 3 of his appearances in Grand Slam finals. The 3rd seed, who has been criticized for being too passive in big moments in the past, will be desperate to earn another chance here. If he maintains his newfound proactive, aggressive approach and continues to serve at the halcyon levels he has so far at the event, he will have a good chance of the upset. Alcaraz is also locked in as he looks to clinch the one major title that has so far proved elusive. The world number 1 is bidding to become the youngest man to complete the career Grand Slam, and is quietly intent on proving he is still the same formidable force without ex-coach Juan Carlos Ferrero. It all makes for what may well be an epic battle. It's always hard to back against Alcaraz, but this is a tighter call than some casual observers may suggest, and there's mileage in looking at this going the distance or certainly clocking up a high number of games. Australian Open 2026 Semifinal, Preview and Prediction. Melbourne Park has a particular way of sharpening the air in the final days of the Australian Open. The sun bakes the blue courts, the night sessions hum with nervous electricity, and the players left standing are no longer just competitors, they are narratives in motion. In 2026, few storylines feel richer than this one. Carlos Alcaraz vs Alexander Zverev, a semifinal shaped by youth, resilience, evolution, and unfinished business. On paper, it's a clash of generations. On court, it's a chess match played at full sprint. The setting, heat, history, and high stakes. The Australian Open has always rewarded courage, long rallies, brutal conditions, and the mental endurance required to survive 2 weeks in Melbourne often expose even the strongest players. By the semi-final stage, excuses evaporate. Bodies ache, but belief hardens. For Alcaraz, this semifinal represents another step toward defining his era on hard courts. For Zverev, it is about validation, proof that persistence, patience, and reinvention can still conquer the sport's brightest flame. Only one of them will walk into Rod Laver Arena for the final, and neither arrives here by accident. Carlos Alcaraz, controlled chaos, perfected. By 2026, Carlos Alcaraz is no longer the future. He is the present tense of men's tennis. What makes Alcaraz so dangerous in Melbourne isn't just his explosive athleticism, it's the way he now paces himself. Earlier in his career, his energy felt infinite but sometimes reckless. Now, there's calculation behind the chaos. Strengths heading into the semifinal. Explosive forehand, still one of the most destructive shots in tennis, capable of turning defense into offense in a blink. Net confidence, Alcaraz's willingness to finish points at the net disrupts Zverev's baseline rhythm. Improved serve variety, not the fastest on tour, but more accurate and unpredictable than ever. Mental elasticity, he absorbs pressure, bends without breaking, and often raises his level when sets hang in the balance. Perhaps most importantly, Alcaraz thrives in extended rallies, even on hard courts. His ability to slide, improvise, and reset points frustrates opponents who prefer linear patterns. Against Zverev, that creativity may be both weapon and risk. Alexander Zverev, the long road back to the edge. If Alcaraz represents the sport's restless future, Alexander Zverev embodies its stubborn resilience. By 2026, Zverev's career arc feels deeper, more textured. Injuries, heartbreak, and nemesis at Grand Slams have carved sharp edges into his game and his mindset. What remains is a player who understands his own limits and strengths with brutal clarity. Why Zverev is a real threat. Serve dominance. When his first serve lands, Zverev controls entire service games with ruthless efficiency. Backhand stability. Still one of the cleanest, flattest backhands in the sport, perfect for redirecting Alcaraz's pace. Court positioning. He now steps inside the baseline more often, refusing to be dragged into passive defense. Tactical patience. Zverev no longer panics in long matches. He waits, probes, and strikes selectively. Melbourne has historically tested Zverev's endurance, both physical and emotional. But this run suggests something different. Calm, grounded, and quietly confident. This is not the Zverev of what IFS. This is the Zverev of now. Head-to-head dynamics, styles, and collision. When Alcaraz and Zverev meet, the match rarely settles into a predictable rhythm. Alcaraz wants movement, variation, sudden changes in height and pace. Zverev wants structure, depth, and controlled aggression through the middle of the court. The critical battleground will be Alcaraz's forehand to Zverev's backhand, a classic matchup where power meets precision. Zverev's ability to neutralize that forehand without giving up court position could determine entire sets. Another key factor, return games. Alcaraz's speed allows him to get more balls back than most players against Zverev's serve. But Zverev has learned to follow big serves with decisive first strikes, reducing the length of rallies before Alcaraz can work his magic.